Hi, y'all. Coach Jacob Trevino here. Um, I am the assistant coach for the 2003-2004 team. I'm the assistant coach for the 2006-2007 and I am now the new head coach for the 2008-2009 team for Footfire. So a little bit about me. In my past, I played club soccer for FC Dallas all throughout middle school and all throughout high school. I also spent a few years in the Olympic development program. Um, and in my time in playing soccer growing up, I got to see a lot of really cool places, meet a lot of really good coaches, and learn a lot from these great coaches. Um, and I've taken kind of a bit of what I've learned from each coach and kind of incorporated that into my own training. Um, and I think a big reason why I like training now is because I now get to utilize those things that I learned as a player and get to pass them on to my players and watch them overcome their own challenges in the game. And for me, that's probably the most rewarding thing as a coach is watching um, my players get better at something they never thought they could have gotten better at. So with that, I kind of want to touch on today's topic, which is mentality at practice. So I'll cover a few key points today. Um, Firstly, why practice is important. Um, then we'll talk about how a player can become better. And then finally, we'll talk about why dedication is important, specifically in practice. So first, let's talk about why practice is important. So um, I think it's pretty obvious. I mean, practice is kind of the gateway to becoming better in the game. So, um, you know, I've never heard of a player who developed that didn't practice. And I mean, that's really the reason why we practice is to develop the skills that we kind of maybe are not the strongest in at the moment. Practice is to mesh with your teammates so that way when you get on the field, you can play better. And that's kind of the overall gist with practice is that you want to be there and you want to give it your all. That way, when you get onto the field, you and your team can play great together. Because, I mean, everyone loves to win. Nobody likes to lose. And that's really why practice isn't so important because when we go there, we're practicing for a game, right? We should treat practice like we're getting ready for the biggest game of our lives. And if we don't treat practice like that, it starts to show in our game. We get a little slower, we get a little lazier, and in turn, we get frustrated because we're not as good as we know we should be. So that's why practice is important. Secondly, how a player can become better. So, kind of to intertwine with practice, a player can really only get better if they're able to see and to realize and be honest with themselves about what they're not so great at the moment. So if a player doesn't have a great touch, if a player can't really shoot all that well, or they don't make great passes, that's something that will take that player to the next level is to recognize that and to work on that. And it's a key to make sure that you do both, right? You don't want to just recognize that you're not good at something and then never work on it. So that, like I said, kind of ties into practice. So if you're a player who knows that you struggle in a certain thing, when there's a certain drill that challenges you in that area, it's important to give it your all in that moment. And that leads me to our last point, which is dedication and why it is so important. So dedication is super important because when we get into practice, how much you advance really relies on how much you put into practice, and how much you get out is going to rely on how much you put in again. So these all kind of tie into each other. So when you're going to practice and you see that all these cones are set up and you're just like, oh, you know what? I'm not feeling it today. I don't want to play. I don't want to practice. That's what's kind of stunt your growth within the sport. I know that me and Gabriel specifically, we spend a lot of time outside of practice thinking up drills that can help the team overall based off of what struggles we see the team go through. So if we know that you guys are having a problem in a certain aspect of the game, we will purposefully make a drill to combat that. And it's important that you guys recognize the fact that we think of this ahead of time to help you guys in the long run. And so that's why dedication is important, because if you guys just kind of blow past what we say, thinking that we're just trying to make you do this weird drill or whatever, You guys are not going to see the improvement that you could be seeing if you just gave it your all every time you came out. And so that pretty much concludes the topic for the day. And I kind of want to close out the topic with the Word of God. So I want to touch on your accountability with God. I know we all have personal struggles. I know there are players who have problems at home or at school or, in soccer. And I kind of just want to remind you all that really no matter what you're going through, no matter what struggle that you're dealing with, whether or not it's personal or whatever, it only makes you stronger. And I know that's kind of a hard thing to hear sometimes, and it's a little frustrating for people to tell you that, the hardships in your life will pass and make you stronger, but it's true. And I mean, it says in the Bible that, I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me. And I believe that, that's one of the most important things to remember in your day-to-day life. So when you go back to school, or whenever you're fighting with your parents, or whenever you're having a hard time in soccer, just remember that the things that are kind of weighing you down right now are weighing you down for a reason. And it's meant to make you stronger, and it's meant to make you better in your sport and better in your life. Thanks, guys.